Welcome everyone to the Partners in Pain. My name is Erin Sobko. I'm a registered massage therapist in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, and I will be your facilitator, your moderator for today's session. Thank you for joining us. Before we begin, and in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm coming to you from Treaty 4 territory, home and the homeland of the Métis. Before we get started, I wanted to give you a bit of information about how this webinar series came about. Partners in Pain grew out of an Improving Pain in Saskatchewan collaborative research project. This project's aims are to give pain a voice by bringing people together to share information and plan action to improve how pain is managed in the province. The research project led to our first pilot series of webinars in March of 2021. The feedback from the pilot was very positive and led the research team to seek additional funding to help support the initiative. The project received a Community Initiatives Fund community grant in mid-2021 for an additional series of webinars, which is what brings us here today. The vision of the Community Initiatives Fund is to enhance the quality of life for all Saskatchewan people. And all of this work is supported by Sask Pain organization, which is on a mission to help improve the lives of those living with pain in Saskatchewan. I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge the research team at Improving Pain in Saskatchewan, the Communities Initiative Fund, and Sask Pain. This webinar is truly a testament to the great things that can happen when folks with a vision and a mission come together to take action. Before we get started, just some webinar etiquette. Please keep yourself muted while our presenters are speaking to minimize background noise. Okay, now I'd like to introduce to you Michelle Eckhart, also coming to you from Yorkton area. Michelle is a registered social worker who resides in Springside with her husband, 2 teenage girls, a dog, and a cat. She works at the Sunrise Health and Wellness Center in Yorkton on a multidisciplinary team as a mental health counselor. Michelle has a genuine passion for helping others learn to help themselves and has learned so much from all of her clients in her 20 years of practice. This last summer, Michelle was able to escape reality a bit by spending a large amount of time at the lake, camping with her family. And now I will pass it over to Michelle.
Thanks so much, Erin. When I rewrote that, I used to have a much more long-winded in my past professional life introduction, and I'm like, nope, short and sweet. But hearing that I've been doing this for 20 years kind of made me go a little bit. So, because I still feel 23. So I've been doing this since I was 3 years old. So, all right. So I'm happy to see some familiar faces. Today I'm going to talk about relaxation. So, like Erin alluded to in the introduction, I work as a mental health therapist at Sunrise Health and Wellness, and just I'm going to give you like a brief synopsis of what we do here. So it was a pilot project started 5 years ago by the health authority to have a multidisciplinary team. So we have doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, myself, we have an exercise therapist, we have diabetes nurse educators, we have registered dietitians, all in one spot. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for your healthcare. So we work together collaboratively to provide healthcare for our patients. And so part of my job is I'm part of the Healthy Living team. And so we run some programs as well. COVID's kind of put some stuff on hold for us, but we're still continuing to do some individual work and some virtual group work with some of our patients. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about relaxation and how relaxation and pain are tied together. Okay, so we're going to talk about how relaxation and pain are tied together. And so I'm going to give myself a little timer because I sometimes tend to talk a lot. So, okay, I blame it on the fact that I don't get to talk a lot in my sessions, that when I talk a lot otherwise. So, So I'm going to talk a little bit about how relaxation can help with pain management. So just briefly, just to find some statistics. So Pain BC and the Mindset Social Innovation Foundation found that 4 in 5 Canadians experiencing significant ongoing pain say that it prevents them from doing regular activities, and more than half of those, it contributes to anxiety and depression. So when we talk about what the major contributing factor for anxiety and depression is stress. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about, give you a little bit of a physiological lesson on how stress creates more pain sometimes. So the physical and emotional factors that contribute to the body and create tension. So stress occurs when the demands are greater than the resources available and the protective response that motivates change. So when we experience stress in our body, it responds physically, and it can stop pain reduction from happening because we're feeling so stressed out. So what is the stress response? So when we talk about what the stress response is, just bear with me for a second. I'm just going to move that. All right. Okay. So the stress response occurs when there's an actual or potential threat perceived. And so it goes back, so we talk about fight, flight, or freeze. And so this goes back to like prehistoric cave people days when we weren't sure. Our amygdala in our brain sends a signal that makes us not sure if we need to run away, so flight, fight, or if we need to fight back, so we're being chased by something, or we freeze out of fear. And so our brain doesn't know, our amygdala is in the back part of our brain, and it's about the size of an almond or your thumbnail. And so that sets off that stress response. And so what happens is during that fight or flight reaction, the tension in our muscles increases. So if you're experiencing pain and you start to experience some stress, that pain intensifies. And so the stress can come from a multiple varying sources. So it can come from financial stress, physical stress, not being able to keep up at home, family stress, relationship stress. There's all kinds of things that contribute to stress. And so what happens is when that stress response gets activated, it just brings those muscles and makes them tighter. So then how can we relieve some of that stress? So these are some of the reactions, and everyone will get a copy of the PowerPoint that we experience when we have fight, flight, and freeze. And so these are some of the ways that we sometimes react. And so when we're in those stages, so things like in fight, we might become irritable. We're more likely to engage in arguments with in our relationships, hoarding items such as cleaning products or toilet paper. And so and this came from Catholic Family Services, and they posted this in the response to COVID. And so when COVID started, our brains started to go through this fight, flight, and freeze piece. And so the fight piece of hoarding toilet paper, how we laugh about it, people were trying to protect themselves. Competitiveness for items when shopping, or criticizing store staff for items in stock, planning for scenarios where the person might have to fight to survive, flight, hiding out, reluctance or to return to activities once restrictions have been lifted or once your pain's gone away, passive communication styles or people pleasing in order to avoid conflict or confrontation, and freeze, engaging in substance abuse, trying to numb the pain, increased amount of time doing things like being on social media, on the computer, watching TV, filling time to kind of numb the emotions that are going away, or feeling frozen and just sitting there all day and not being able to move. So what we look at with stress is how our mind and body contribute to that relaxation. So one of the ways to help reduce our stress and the impact of it is utilizing mind and body techniques. So mind and body techniques have been shown to help relieve pain, tense muscles, anger, stress, anxiety, and improve sleep. So we're going to actually, in the activity later today, do a progressive muscle relaxation. But I'm going to share with you right now a couple different ways that mind-body techniques help. So looking at trying different methods and finding one that suits you. And I always encourage my clients to do this, that, you know, looking at how one thing might work one time and then another thing might work a different time. So kind of almost having a toolbox full of different items you can try. So there's a couple different types, more than a couple different types of relaxation. So progressive relaxation, which is also called progressive muscle relaxation. And like I said, we'll be practicing this later today. So this technique involves tensing different muscles in your body and then releasing the tension. And so I almost refer to this as a self-massage. So we're working our way through the body, and like the one I use on a regular basis myself is it goes from my toe all the way to my head. And it's almost like a self-massage where you tense the muscle while you're deep breathing, and then you relax it. Okay. And so I'm going to explain a little bit more about that one later. Autogenic training. So this is a series of mental exercises involving relaxations and ideas you suggest to yourself, and your mind focuses on your body's experience of relaxation. And so this one I look at is like what, you know, imagining a time when you have been feeling relaxed, right? And so when I do this one, I will often close my eyes and imagine me being on the beach with my feet in the sand, feeling warm, smelling the lake, those kinds of things. So it's kind of almost like visualization, but it's something, it's going to a specific experience. Then there is guided imagery or visualization. So in guided imagery, you also picture objects and scenes or events that are associated with relaxation or calmness and attempt to produce a similar feeling in your body. So using different scenarios as well too. And this one can be voice. You can use, there's different apps and different pieces that you can use to do that. Okay, and I do have some suggestions for that as well, and I have some websites you can check out at the end that are going to be included in the presentation with what you get. Biofeedback. So this is a type of device that you can control your breathing. So you learn to recognize and manage how your body responds. So for example, the device lets you see how your heart rate, blood pressure, and muscle tension changes in response to feeling stressed or relaxed. So you can control your breathing. And so, for example, in one of them, you try to make a balloon float up. So you control it with your breathing and your heart rate, and you're connected to this device, and your breathing connects to that and allows for the balloon to move in the picture. Self-hypnosis. This one I don't know a lot about, but there are people that practice self-hypnosis, and so to produce their own relaxation response when prompted by a phrase or a nonverbal cue on their own. And breathing exercises. So this is the easiest, you can do anywhere. And what we would do is focus on slow, deep breaths, also called diaphragmatic breathing. And so when we breathe, quite often we do apical breathing. So we're breathing from the top part of our lungs. When we're practicing diaphragmatic breathing, we want to put our hand right above where our belly button is, and that's usually where your diaphragm is. And you want to feel that bottom hand moving when we're doing those deep breaths. So the guided imagery or visualization, you utilize all your senses. So vision, taste, sound, smell, touch, to build the images in your mind that your body feels as real as an external event. So think of it as a much more amplified version of a food craving construction from memory. So for example, if I got you to close your eyes right now and imagine that you are sucking on a lemon, okay? And all of a sudden you close your eyes and you're gonna put that lemon in your mouth. And then all of a sudden your salivary glands will start to work, and you might make a face that you're gonna bite into that lemon, okay? Now you can replicate that for stress management and pain relief. So I often imagine light with visualization and guided imagery. So when, especially with breathing, I will imagine that when I'm breathing out, I breathe out red like a dragon. So if I'm in pain, I used to get consistent migraines. And so when I would practice deep breathing, I would breathe in and imagine like a purple or a blue healing. But then when I would breathe out, I would imagine red like a dragon trying to blow that pain out, right? And so that's that visualization. So guided imagery then constructs an immersed state of mind throughout the entire body by visualizing all 5 senses. Okay, and so hypnosis is a little bit different. The hypnotist introduces suggestions to the participant and helps enter the subconscious mind. So with guided imagery, you're using the power of your own imagination. So in here, I have a couple different, so in the first Partners in Pain series, I talked a little bit about breathing exercises. And so I've included these again. So a couple different breathing exercises on square breathing, triangle, and showing the diaphragmatic breathing, a diagram of that, of how we inhale and our diaphragm pushes up when we breathe out. Okay. Also as well, pursed lip breathing. So this is really good for people who deal with shortness of breath, who have pulmonary issues, and really good to actually, when you're learning to exercise or start moving again. I recently started CrossFit again, and so I used this one actually the other day because I was trying to breathe and I'm like, okay, try pursed lip breathing, and all of a sudden I was able to breathe and do it. So so looking at, you know, how you breathe it slowly through your nose like you're going to smell a rose, and then purse your lips like you're going to whistle, and breathe out slowly like your pursed lips are gently blowing out the candle. Okay, so you breathe in slowly and push out. Okay, so like I said, progressive muscle relaxation is a great method of pain relief for people. And so you tense a group of muscles as you breathe in and as you relax them as you breathe out. So you work on your muscle groups in a certain order. When your body is physically relaxed, you cannot feel anxious. And so that tension goes away. And so sometimes even with tense and release, what I will do with people is not even get them to tense. I will just get them to release, okay? And especially if you're dealing with a lot of musculoskeletal pain, you can sometimes feel quite tight muscles. And so this can help just to, when we do the breathing and actually just doing the release, that could really help with that. So when we're practicing later, so if you even want to do the release, that's something you can do. So when you first start, it might be helpful to use an audio recording until you learn the muscle groups in order. And this is a fantastic way to fall asleep if you have a hard time with sleep, because it is quite a methodic piece, and it slowly relaxes your body. I would use this, I started doing this about 10 years ago when I had a hard time with sleep. And what happened is now I can't even make it past my calves, and I'm out. Okay. And whereas before I would sometimes have to play it twice. So to go through my whole body twice. So now I don't know if my body just knows that it's time to go to sleep and it does that. But when I'm still struggling, sometimes I'll pull it out, but I don't get past my calves. So here's some different resources that might be helpful to you that have some progressive muscle relaxation and some different worksheets on relaxation techniques. And so, like I said, trying different things might work for you, might be different for other people. So looking at how does that work for yourself, and looking at that. And if you're wanting some more information, there are some sources you can check out.
Yeah, and we'll be giving you this PowerPoint. Everyone will have access to this PowerPoint and those resources after this webinar. Thank you, Michelle. That was very interesting. Our next speaker is Jennifer Pond. Jennifer was born and raised in Saskatoon. She has a commerce degree from the Edwards School of Business at the University of Saskatchewan and owned and operated a corporate event and wedding planning company. Currently, Jennifer lives with her partner, Samuel, and cat, Sienna. Although she is currently unemployed due to disability, Jennifer loves to study mindfulness, take walks, read, and practice yoga. And now I'll pass it over to Jennifer to share her story.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, okay, good. Thank you guys so much for having me today. I'm a big fan of Partners in Pain and all of the work that you guys are doing. So yeah, I really appreciate being here and contributing today and just changing to gallery mode so I'm not staring at myself. Perfect. Okay, so my pain story. It began in 2015. I was in a lovely yoga class and I was doing a nice little twist and I heard a pop in my spine, my lower back area. And I didn't know it at the time, but that would sort of change the course of my life. After leaving that class, I was fine, but pain started to manifest in my right leg. There was lots of radiating pain, and I didn't really associate the two at all. And so I thought I must have just pulled the leg and I elevated it and just sort of limped around for a while. But the pain did not go away, and it actually started to transition into my left leg as well. So I knew at that time something must have been wrong. And eventually the pain sort of landed in my lower back, and it stayed there ever since, as I'm sure many of you can relate to. So at that time, I knew something was wrong. I went to the doctors, we did x-rays, and we found that there was issues within my spine area. Eventually, I developed a condition called spondylolisthesis, which if these are my vertebrae, basically one starts to slip over the one below, and so it causes instability, which is why I had issues within my legs, and so that made sense. But so that condition caused some issues in my lower extremities, the pain being the major one of them. So at that time, I think the hardest part in the beginning was just learning to live with the pain. Work was so challenging, just sitting and walking upstairs. I was an event planner, and so the events were very long, and yeah, it was just really challenging trying to face the world with the pain. And I think this is where I kind of learned to lead that double life and not in the sexy James Bond way at all. I would go out into the world, I'd have my clipboard, my red lipstick, and my ambition. And then as soon as I had a moment where I was able, sorry, my cat's in a mood today, I was able to, she's going crazy. As soon as I had a moment where the curtains, would draw, or the elevator doors would close, and I would just collapse and go, oh my goodness, this is a lot. And so that's when I really recognize, this is something really challenging, because in those moments, I just didn't know how I'd be able to continue on. But then the doors would open and I would walk back through and face the day. And I think so many of us can resonate with leading those different lives. And it's a very isolating feeling, I think, but part of that survival and just not really understanding what else to do. You can only go to the emergency room so much and sort of be turned away. And so you just have to sort of deal with whatever you're facing. So over the next few years, I worked quite diligently with my medical team to really try every conservative method of treatment possible, meaning just non-surgical methods of treatment. But unfortunately, none of them worked. And more often than not, they just made things worse. So I would just find myself flaring up after every time I would go to get a treatment. At this point, I think I was starting to feel the effects of really internalizing those failures, and this trial and error my whole life had turned into just continuing to try new things and get motivated, pump myself up, and then it would fail. And so again, I think that's a classic case for people in pain, is that we start to just internalize these things and see ourselves as failures in a way. And that's a big challenge for us. Why is this not working? What's wrong with me? What else can I do? And of course, at this time, my world was becoming a little bit smaller because of the pain. And I grew deep appreciation for people living with health challenges, because I came to see that pain and health challenges, they don't just affect you physically, but they touch every single area of your life. The pain seeps into the nooks and crannies of your world. From mental, I couldn't focus. The pain was just so intense, and always, it's kind of like a screaming baby, right? It's heavy and it doesn't shut up, right? You can't soothe it. And emotionally, obviously, just feeling that anxiety and that depression and that fear constantly in the body, and socially, and my activities changed, relationships, everywhere, just cleaning the house, simple things like that. And even some of the simple pleasures in life, like watching a movie, became challenging, because you can't really escape the pain, right? You're not very comfortable, even in the times when you're supposed to be relaxing. So definitely feeling the effects of just living with the pain, and getting familiar with how that would impact me in every way. I have so much respect for people in pain, because we have so much to deal with, and you almost forget that you're just living with pain moment to moment too, right? Just trying to face that day and that moment. So eventually things sort of got worse, as I think they often do. I had to leave work, and physically I was no longer able to, told not to carry things more than 5 pounds, which is like everything. And I was bedridden for quite a long time at the end there. So I did end up having spine fusion surgery, which was recommended to me quite significantly by my medical team, and sort of presented as the only option I had left, or my highest probability of success in terms of saving the quality of my life, or my life, the way that I saw it. So I did go through with the surgery. It was quite hellish. And on the one hand, it did take care of some of those really scary symptoms, such as having numbness in certain lower extremities. And that was a challenge, definitely, and something I didn't want to live with. And I didn't want my condition to progress and to become immobile permanently. So that I was thankful for. However, as I continued to try and heal my way through the surgery, my medical team and I, along with all my physiotherapists and whatnot, were really recognizing that the pain was continuing. And so at this point, I was deemed as a failed back surgery syndrome, which happens to, I think, a large amount of people that have spine surgery. So I was prepared for that, but saddened, for sure. This thing that was supposed to save my life, right? So I went into the mode of of what I often do, which is my research mode, try to apply my academic skills to fix this and find a way out of it. If only we could work hard and we would just get the results we want, which is not how healing works, unfortunately. But at this time, I started to search more about pain, and which before I had only been searching about the spine condition, right? That was the area of focus for my whole medical team. And so I did start to research pain. And my friend at the time, who's a pelvic floor physiotherapist, she had some new training and sent me a name, Lorimer Mosley, who is a wonderful human being and a pain scientist out of Adelaide, Australia. And through his name, I found myself on the website Tame the Beast. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with these websites. But this changed my whole world. So like whole world. I immediately understood that pain is so much more complex than we could ever even imagine, than I had known, and more complex than any of my surgeons or doctors had ever acknowledged. So it was really a new experience and a new learning. And more importantly, I came to recognize that I not only had this real spine condition, but I also had a very real pain condition, a very real medical problem that had not been talked about, not recognized, and definitely not attempted to be treated. Right. So that was a shocker to me. And it was good in the sense that there was an understanding of why things had only gotten worse, as they often do for so many of us, and why the more isolated I got and the more mental health challenges I faced, the more the pain got worse, the more my body became protective. And more importantly, too, why after surgery had my abilities and my pain just magnified. So after surgery, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I could not sit. I could not walk or stand, and I still struggle with sitting, walking, and standing today, which is why if you see me swaying, that's what's up. So there was no medical reason that I'm still struggling to sit. The bones are fusing and everything's healing. We've got a nice fly that's joining us today on Erin's screen. She's dancing around. Where was I? Yeah, so there's no medical reason that I should be having all this pain. There's no danger, but I am experiencing it. So lots of feelings to resolve in terms of forgiving the many people that I had seen, and sort of trying to come to peace with it, because it was just so confusing that no one, and I've seen so many specialist surgeons, chronic pain therapists in Saskatoon. The list is so endless, and not one person had ever made note of this, of this real pain problem. So that was hard for me to swallow, a hard pill. But I did get over that. Lots of forgiveness and love to be had. We do the best we can with the information that we're given, which is why we have partners in pain. We need to affect change within the system, starting from school, starting with school education. So at this point in my journey, the way that I was trying to heal really changed. The way that I started to treat my days and my recovery changed. I started to implement tools that helped me to really honor and acknowledge my pain problem and work with my system. So utilizing tools such as mind and body tools and meditation and mindfulness and journaling and breathing exercises that really allowed me a way to turn towards myself, to turn towards my pain, to turn towards my shame and my trauma and my fears and my sadness with compassion, with kindness, and maybe curiosity even. And start to reclaim a sense of safety and belonging inside of my home, my body, right? I think for so many of us, our body is so overwhelming. Like it's riddled with so much pain and anxiety and fear And so of course we try to turn away. Of course we fight, freeze or flee, whatever we can do. And also we're humans. And so where there are loud noises and there is pain, there is a human trying to, avert itself. And so I think a big part of working with the system is, again, trying to turn towards yourself and soothe it and allow yourself to kind of land back into your body again, which is really hard, and it's a daily practice. If pain is here daily and challenge is here daily, then these tools, have to be utilized daily as well to try and fight for our home a little bit again. So yeah, I'm not working at the moment, which I think has been the hardest thing throughout this. I feel quite young, although I also feel quite old. There's a duality there. So having purpose, I think, is important for humans. And so that's a really hard thing, which is why living with pain also is so challenging, because a lot of our identity is taken away. And yeah, I was able, though, to get my mindfulness meditation and yin yoga teaching certificates. I did most of it lying down, since sitting is hard, but I did it and I completed them because I really want to share these practices that I have come to know and to love with other people, whether you're in pain or just also struggling with life, because life is stressful, as we know. So yeah, that's sort of, I guess, my story in a nutshell, so to speak. I do offer meditation classes online every Tuesday and yin yoga every Thursday. They're free or by donation, but I really just want to offer things that are accessible to so many people, because as we know, prior to coronavirus, there are people that live at home that are isolated, and that will continue after coronavirus is managed, right? We forget about those people. The world freaked out when we're all living our normal life, so to speak. So yeah, I think that's everything. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I hope I didn't go over too much. I'm a little over.
Jennifer, that your story is really interesting, and I'm sure a lot of people on this webinar can relate to your story. Does anyone have any questions for Jennifer? Anything at all? I have a question. What is your pain like on a day-to-day scale? Like, are you in a lot of pain now, or by doing all of these things, the mindfulness, the yoga, the journaling, have you been able to manage it quite well, and it's kind of, you're not noticing it as much?
Totally. I'm in a lot of pain right now. I haven't been able to rectify the pain side of things. After surgery, I could only sit for 5 minutes at a time, which was just insane. So I really started to utilize those tools while I was sitting and while I was cooking dinner and standing. So I've been able to increase my tolerance, so increase the amount of time I can do things without flaring up. But I have trouble reducing the pain to a manageable level. So with the numbers thing, I would say I live at about a 7, which I think that it's not a manageable amount in the sense that I can't go to work yet and things like that, but I can move through my day. My biggest goal is just to try not to flare up, which I think was the most challenging thing for me. And I think many of us can relate to. The flare-ups are hard. Yeah, I think that when it comes to retraining that system, which is why doing so is so challenging, because I don't think that there's a one size fit all. We really have to try different things and work with consistency of trying to calm our system and calm our body. And so for me, I'm still trying to find how it all heals me, how it all fits together. But I am seeing progress in my mobility, which is amazing, but just the pain is still quite substantial. Thanks, Erin.
There's a question from Susan. Do you have any tips for explaining to people why you need to move around a lot?
Move around a lot. Are you meaning because I have
so much, Jennifer. No, I can relate a lot to the not being able to sit for long periods of time and needing to wiggle and change and shift. And I'm wondering if you just come right out and say to people, I need to stand up, my back is sore, or are you like trying to fit it in as, you know, are you trying to fake it or do you just come right out and be open with people and explain to them about your pain?
Yeah. I wish I had a one-shot answer for this. There's just no rule book for this stuff. It really is trying to suss out the situation and see what is best. I did find eventually that I just shared some of my shit. Sorry to say that, but I like to use that saying, just share your shit, right? Because there is a side to living with pain. When we are hiding, when we're playing that double role, we're just intensifying it. We are totally intent. The brain is going to feel like it has to protect you. You're going to feel insecure and alone, and we need community. So as often as I can, I share my shit and I let people know. And yeah, and in other situations, you know, I just try to be graceful, and I'm really good at ending conversations quickly. I've gotten very skilled at sort of being pleasant and saying goodbye. But yeah, I would say sharing is the best thing that you can do, and just move and be you, because we're dealing with so much. But also, you know, people are a lot more compassionate than we think. They don't have to understand you. That's one thing I recognize. Like, no one understands what's happening to me mostly. Like, people don't really get it. They don't get all of this. And even all of this, there's still so many holes, right, that we have to fill in. But people don't have to understand you to just be compassionate, and humor is such a good one too. You know, it's
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, totally.
Jennifer, there's another question. Do any medications or combination, this will be the last question, of meds assist the pain?
Yeah, I was on, I've tried almost every medication out there. I don't have any bias towards medication. Let's use what we have. Let's use what's available. There's no shame. But I really just didn't find that they helped, and they often made me quite sick. So I would get quite sick from medication. I did use morphine for a while, but I just found that I was needing more and more, and that wasn't going to be a long-term solution. So I just chose to go off of it, and it wasn't providing me too much relief. So yeah, but I say but gabapentin was one. Kind of forget the question now, but gabapentin was one that helps with nerve pain, which can be so substantial. So that was one that did help. Yeah. But I say breathing exercises are better for me anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jennifer. If you read the chat, there are a lot of people thanking you for your story, sharing your story. So thank you once again. And now I'm going to pass it over to Michelle, and she is going to do a relaxation exercise that we can all try. Michelle, are you there? There she comes.
Yeah, I'm back. I just was trying to preserve bandwidth. So sometimes we don't have the best bandwidth here. So, all right. So like I alluded to earlier in my presentation, that I was going to talk about progressive muscle relaxation. And thank you, Jennifer, so much for sharing what you've experienced. This is something that can help a lot of people. I don't deal with chronic pain myself. I've had, you know, here and there kind of thing. I used to have migraines. However, my sister has rheumatoid arthritis and vasculitis, and is in a substantial amount of pain a lot of the time. And she's currently not on it. She's done some treatment, but she's, you know, kind of going to cold turkey right now. So I actually shared this with her the other day, and the progressive muscle relaxation, and she did it a few times, and she's like, oh my goodness, she's like, this is the best thing ever. why didn't I start this sooner? So there's lots of different scripts out there for progressive muscle relaxation. I felt it was cheating just to put on an app and let them talk to you. So I'm actually going to be the voice today. So I'm going to put on my best relaxation voice. So the first time I was exposed to progressive muscle relaxation when I was 12, and it was at a confirmation retreat, and our minister actually did it with us, and I fell asleep. And I remember them coming and nudging me and saying, okay, Michelle, it's time to wake up, time to wake up. So this is a really good way to fall asleep. So if you fall asleep, that's okay. You'll just kind of fall asleep. We'll see you again next time. So I just want you to get into a space where you feel comfortable and relaxed. And so what this is going to do is reduce some stress and anxiety in your body and have you slowly tense and relax each muscle. So like I said, if tensing your muscle is too much for you, just as we're breathing, just release, okay? And so, at any part of the exercise where you're feeling like, okay, I can't do this anymore, that's okay. Okay, so pay special attention to the feeling of releasing the tension in each muscle and the resulting feeling of relaxation. Okay, so let's begin. So sit or lie down in a comfortable position and shut your eyes if you're comfortable with doing so. So we're going to begin by taking a few deep breaths. And notice the feeling of air filling your lungs, and hold your breath for a few seconds. Release the breath slowly and let the tension leave your body. Take in another deep breath and hold it. Again, slowly release that air. Even slower now, take another breath and fill your lungs and hold the air. Slowly release the breath and imagine the feeling of tension leaving your body. Now we're going to move the attention to your feet, beginning by tensing your feet by curling your toes in the arch of your foot. Hold on to the tension if you're able and notice what it feels like. Release the tension in your foot. Now notice the new feeling of relaxation. Next, begin to focus on your lower leg. Tense your muscle in your calves. Hold them tightly and begin to pay attention to the feeling of the tension. Release the tension from your lower legs. Again, notice the feeling of relaxation. Remember to continue taking deep breaths. Next, tense the muscles of your upper leg and of your pelvis. You can do this by tightly squeezing your thighs together. Make sure you feel the tenseness without going to the point of strain. And release. Feel the tension leave your muscles. Begin to tense your stomach and your chest. You can do this by sucking your stomach in. Imagine a string is pulling your belly button to your back. Squeeze harder and hold the tension a little bit longer. Release the tension. Allow your body to go limp. Let yourself notice the feelings of relaxation. Continue taking deep breaths. Breathe in slowly, noticing the air fill your lungs, and hold it. Release the air slowly, feel it leaving your lungs. Next, tense the muscles in your back by bringing your shoulders together behind you. Hold them together tightly. Tense them as hard as you can without straining, and keep holding. Release the tension from your back. Feel the tension slowly leaving your body and the new feeling of relaxation. Notice how different your body feels when you allow it to relax. Tense your arms all the way from your hands to your shoulders. Make a fist and squeeze all the way up your arm. Hold it. Release the tension from your arms and your shoulders. Notice the feeling of relaxation in your fingers, hands, arms, and shoulders. Notice how your arms feel limp and at ease. Move up to your neck and your head. Tense your face and your neck by distorting the muscles around your eyes and your mouth. So almost scrunching your face up together, like you've just bit into a lemon. Release the tension. Again, notice the new feeling of relaxation. Finally, tense your entire body if you are able. Tense your feet, your legs, your stomach, your chest, your arms, your head, and your neck. Tense harder without straining. Hold the tension. Now release. Allow your whole body to go limp again, paying attention to the feeling of relaxation and how different it is from the feeling of tension. Begin to wake up your body by slowly moving your muscles. Adjust your arms and legs. And if you're able to, reach up to the sky, stretch your muscles out, and open your eyes when you're ready.
Thank you, Michelle. Is anyone asleep? I guess you're not going to tell us if you are. I didn't do this because I'm so suggestive to things like this that I would also be the person falling asleep. So thank you, Michelle. That was great. A big thank you to both Michelle and Jennifer for sharing your expertise, experiences, and insight with us this afternoon. And also a big thank you to each and every one of you for being with us here. So recordings of these webinars will be available on the Sask Pain website. The link to these will be shared with you by email tomorrow with any slides that our speakers will be sharing, handouts on the activities, and other helpful links. It will also include a link to an evaluation. Please be sure to complete the evaluation form to provide us with your feedback. Our next webinar is scheduled for Tuesday, October the 19th at 6:30 p.m. And our theme for the webinar is resources and self-advocacy. Our activity for the session will be another art therapy project. Also, Partners in Pain podcasts will be available starting this October the 8th. So look into that using your favorite listening device. And also, please share information about this webinar with your friends and family and social circles. And that will conclude our webinar today. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Bye.